Apart from the name recognition and some political baggage as well, what does Jeb Bush bring to this presidential contest, and what sort of America would he lead? Dr. Bates Gill is the CEO of the United States Studies Centre at the University of Sydney. Bates, welcome to The Drum.
Thank you, John.
So, Jeb Bush, no great surprise that he's running for the presidency, but who is this guy? Is he George W. Mark II, or is he a bit of the old man? What is he?
Everyone seems to think he's a little bit more like the father, compassionate conservative, so-called. I think he even used that phrase, which is an echo of his father's phraseology. You know, he bit of a more of a, I would say, a homebody in a way. You know, he wasn't as eager for the spotlight as his brother was, and also I think has had a bit of a better record, we could say, politically and even financially, and of course, unlike his brother, building some incredible bridges to the Latino population in the United States, unlike virtually all the other candidates, including Rubio and Cruz.
Now, why is this important, and what is the special entry point that Jeb Bush has on this issue? He was talking a bit of Spanish in that rally today. There was Spanish signs.
He speaks more than a bit of Spanish. He's virtually fluent in Spanish. Married to a woman who he met in Mexico when he was in university, I believe, and has, you know, lived a life embedded within a sort of Latino community in Florida, you know, in Miami. So there's a lot more to that than just superficial optics, I think. And as we proceed, I think we'll see more and more of this as an important aspect of his outreach.
Is he too progressive for the Republican Party? Some have said he's just another Mitt Romney, a Republican in name only, and the base isn't going to support him.
Well, you know, it's funny because a lot of that commentary wants to talk about the Hillary-Jeb contest. One reason why Jeb is still 7-1 in the odds against winning is not because of Hillary, although that's a factor. It's because of the deep divisions within the Republican Party, I would suspect. And we'll see, once again, I'm sure, even a relatively moderate Republican such as him, a person who you could probably argue is even more moderate than, say, Mitt Romney was on certain issues, is going to have to make that slide to the right.
Bates, can I ask, that was one of the things that surprised me about his sort of first 4-minute video, was it was very left of centre, probably when I would have expected he would probably, at least in the primaries, try and position more to that Tea Party base and bring in some of more of that right aspect, because we've heard so much talk around him being too moderate. What did you think about, I guess, his first positioning of the issues he stands for and how that will play out?
Well, I think, you know, to begin, he's probably going to hold firm to his very core principles, and that's what you'd expect, I would think, from an opening sort of foray, to be true to himself in that way. What's going to really be the test of his principles will be as we move forward into the primaries. If he loses 1 or 2, or if his polling numbers aren't up to snuff as we go into those early primaries, it would be unusual if he didn't slide back toward the right and try to capture some of that base. It's just so important in American primary politics to do that.
His moderate side, surely, you know, I would think that at some point the Republican Party is going to recognise, in order to beat Hillary, who was likely to get the Democrat nomination, the Republicans are far more open field, that a more moderate Republican would be beneficial going up against someone like Hillary Clinton. And I did notice today as well, I think that he's already in front in New Hampshire polling amongst Republicans. So I think that's a positive sign of sort of the first one out of the...
of course, is not exactly the bastion of Tea Party politics in America.
No, that's true, but it's the first one out of the gate, so it's...
You raise an excellent point. I mean, this has been a debate in the Republican Party now for at least 12 years, maybe more. And that is, it's getting... But I think the debate is actually getting deeper and more divisive. The belief that, look, we've trusted the moderate too many times to try and defeat Obama twice, right? And even with trusting a McCain or others, you know, or Romney, we still lose. So maybe we just ought to really stick to our guns here, literally, and go after him from where we think we've got the biggest amount of support from within the party.
Of course, the historical precedent to that people talk about on the Republican side, nominating Barry Goldwater in 1964. He lost big time. And then on the Democrat side, George McGovern in 72. If you go with the person that you love rather than the person you think that could win, you can lose big time.
I mean, were I an advisor to the Republican Party, I would absolutely agree that Jeb Bush stands the best chance and I think actually a very good chance, better than 7-1, of defeating Hillary Clinton. The question will be whether if we can convince the people that drive the primaries in the American system before that happens.
Can I ask, on balance, I mean, one of the things that came out today was he only invited his mum to sort of his launch. He stayed away from having Dad and his brother involved. You know, there's that element of, does the Bush name play into his hand? Because at the same time, it's been very successful in early stage fundraising. It's helped accrue a lot of money into his war chest. On points, is he better for being a Bush, or is that going to be a real impediment?
Well, if he weren't a Bush, he wouldn't be where he is today, that's for sure, making this announcement.
But in terms of how that will play with the public and the voting base.
Because, you know, you're going to have it's obviously a negative to anybody who is on the sort of the left side of the political spectrum for most of them because of the association with his brother. And it may well be a negative for a lot of people on the right because even George W. Bush is often seen as having been too big government and too sort of progressive in some certain policies.
So, Bates, the fact that he is almost certain, if he gets the nomination, to be up against Hillary Clinton, I mean, for a lot of people, the idea, just the optics of a Bush v. Clinton election, it looks bad. It speaks of political dynasties. It's what America is not about, having this sort of hereditary ruling class. Does that make Jeb's chance of getting the nomination and becoming president less because the Clinton name is going to be in the other column?
You know, this is all speculative, but my sense is that the name issue, the dynasty issue, is probably less of a problem in the Republican side of things. My sense is, especially with this sort of a run at Hillary from the left, and the run now from the left at Obama, that even in the Democratic Party, a sort of politics as usual isn't going to bring out the vote like it might be needed to. So maybe in some ways Hillary's got a bigger problem with the name, I suspect, than does Bush.